Unmute, dear.
There you go.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I believe we have a few more people that are going to be joining us. So whenever they tap in, we'll come in. Actually, here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Now, guys, am I dark?
A bit.
Yes.
A little bit, but that's okay.
Your face is brilliant.
Are we better? Are we better? How is everyone tonight?
Good.
Doing well.
Well, thank you for joining me. Okay, we're going to get started. So, fluff hair, do what we have to do. Okay?
Sounds good.
All righty. Hello, everyone. This is Opus Night, and you have entered Night Vision. Tonight, we have 4 authors. 2 of them are co-authors. So I am going to let them, we're going to start off with Kelly. And if you'd introduce yourself, and do you have your books on hand?
Our bookcase is right above us. Well, I am Kelly Blanchard. This is my cat Freya, who decided to join us, and this is my husband Matthew Dell.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
And so I'm a fantasy sci-fi author of the Chronicles of Loic series, which is a series I wrote by myself. But then my husband and I co-wrote a series together, and that series is called The Hand of Sorrow. The first book in that series is called The Crown's Secret, which is right here.
Oh,
and it's a good copy. And so yeah, we just released that a few weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
And so it's very exciting because it's the first time he's published a book.
Yeah, this is my first actual published work, so I'm super excited about it.
Well, we're excited you joined us. We love that. And I'm going to have Thomas. Do you have your book, darling?
Oh, well, this is the cover for my latest book. It's releasing on September 14th. It's the final book in my Versatile Layer series. And the title is The Invisible War.
Beautiful.
That looks really
We
good.
have Kimberly joining us. We can't hear you, dear.
I'm so sorry. My son had a soccer game and it went into overtime. Stupid soccer game.
We're glad.
So I apologize. I was rushing to get here. I'm really sorry.
You're perfectly fine. We were going over and telling a little bit about yourself and about your book.
Is it my turn now?
It's your turn now. I love
All right.
whenever you enter late on here, even 1 second, you're my star for the night.
All right. Sounds good. Well, my name's Kimberly Hennessy, and this is my first podcast, so I'm a bit nervous. But yes, my book is She Runs with Wolves, and I don't know, did you want me to say something about the story right now, or
Yeah.
I don't know what's... Yes, okay, so it's about a young woman, well, middle-aged woman, on a discovery of herself, of what she's capable of doing. And it was important to me that she be of a certain mature age, because we always think that, you know, there's this thing in Hollywood where young women always blossom at the age of 15. And it's like such a myth. It's like, no, that can actually, you know, very rarely happens that you know who you want to be and where you're going at the age of 15, etc. So it was important that she was, you know, around 30-ish. And yeah, so she's on a journey of self-discovery. It involves wolves. It involves artificial intelligence, and yeah, so there's a lot going on in the story.
Wonderful. All righty, Katie.
Hey, okay. Well, my author name is Catherine Y. Bell, And I'm author of multiple series in different age brackets: young adult, new adult, and adult fantasy. The one I have actually on hand to show you today, I'll show you, is Asara's Claws. And this is the first book of the Incarn Saga series. And in the series, there's the kingdom, since I write fantasy, there's the kingdom of Alasia that is about to be attacked by a mysterious counterpart. And unfortunately for them, the human race, which is the ruling party, and the native race of Therimorphs have already been butting heads for a number of years. There have been wars, and even though they both currently obey the king and under one rule, they still distrust each other. So the series kicks off with the fact that these two different races have to push aside their own hatred with each other in order to fend off a greater enemy. And so you follow my main character, Ueva, who is a Therimorph, one of the shapeshifters, as she's drafted and trains for war, and then the adventure that pursues thereafter.
That sounds amazing. We love it. Now, Thomas, we did not cut you short, did we, love?
No. I kind of ran out of words.
Okay, just making sure.
All right. Yeah. Basically, my series is a 9-book series. Basically, it's humans versus an alien race called the Erez, and it turns out they're being manipulated behind the scenes by a third party. And the Invisible War is the final chapter in the book. Will they find peace, or will they destroy each other?
Beautiful. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and please, everyone, it's like an open forum. We call it the round table. If you have any questions for another author, by all means, jump in. If you have any questions for myself, jump in and let me know as well, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay. So on your writing journey, what did you find the hardest parts of your books to write? Which one tripped you up the quickest and the most? Katie, let's start with you.
Oh my. Okay. So my writing journey, which book tricked me, or what aspect of writing? May I clarify?
Good question. How about both?
Okay. Book-wise, one of my series, you want me to may I talk about one of my other series?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Matter
One of my other series
for you.
Okay, perfect. Well, is a young adult series. It's called the Jed Chronicles, and the first book, The 12 Tasks, was really hard for me because I was venturing into multiverse territory. So it took me a lot of background time to come up with the worlds, their alternate dimensions, how everything fit with each other, if there was time differences between travel between the worlds. And so there was a lot of planning that went into that, and it was very overwhelming for some time. So that one kind of caught me off guard as I was approaching this, thinking I was self-confident and realizing I had a lot of work ahead of me as I was setting up just the background of that series.
That sounds really interesting, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, again, coming from a fantasy perspective, the concept of kind of dabbling with some themes that are more science fiction was kind of fun, but also very challenging since it's not really my comfort zone. But I guess aspects of writing when I'm working on books, I love action scenes, so those always come easy for me, but it's always that middle ground between either a really good dialogue or an action sequence where there's that lull, and it's just so hard for me to motivate myself to fill in the gaps. So that's
Gotcha.
what I guess I would say. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I would say it was tripping. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
All right. I would say what's tripping me up right now at this moment is I started my series back in 2017, and I've always had a clear picture of the ending and the goal of the series and all the themes. So now that the entire process is over, I'm really struggling to get started on the next project because now I have to conceptualize something completely new and pretty much start from scratch, like a lot of staring at a blank page, a lot of just writing out lots of thoughts and trying to trying to snatch something from the void, trying to form something together. It's a trying process. It's pretty much what I'm in the middle of right now.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Definitely.
We all feel that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of along the lines of what Thomas said, at least for me anyways, the thing that we seem to struggle with initially is just getting it started. With the Hand of Sorrow series, we started the first draft, 5 times before we finally hammered out exactly what the story was and where it wanted to go. And with the series we're working on now, we've taken like a year-long hiatus from it and just recently came back to it. And even this one, we've started 3 or 4 times before we finally got into something. Yes, before we finally got into the groove of writing it. So just like kind of knowing in general what we want to do, but actually figuring out how it all fits together and getting it started seems to be the most challenging aspect of it. Like the dialogue, the action, she's definitely got all of that down really good, and I'm starting to get the hang of it. But the whole getting the ball rolling, so to speak, is I think what's hardest.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
For both Kelly and Matthew, do you fight doing dialogue? Do you ever find any character that he wants to go one way and you want to go the other?
We do occasionally find characters that want to go one way or another, but we don't really ever actually fight about it. I think there was like one instance in the Hand of Sorrow where we really strongly disagreed about something that a character was going to do, but it was just like a misunderstanding, a failure of communication.
We had a character, his character had to do something because it had ramifications for the rest of the book and huge ramifications. And he didn't want, when he kind of got to that point, he got really attached to the character and he had to do something that wasn't good. And he didn't want that character to do that. And I was like, no, we have to do this because we lose all these awesome scenes that we have planned and all this other stuff. We have to do this. And we tried to negotiate and figure out what to do so it wasn't as bad. So we finally found something, but that was the hardest time of working together because we literally spent 2 hours just going back and forth, like, no, we should go this way. No, we should go this way. I was like, no, we have to go with this because this is what needs to happen because, that's what we have planned. And that's what the characters want to have happen. But this is one little thing the character's like, but I don't want to do that, because I know I'm not a great person right now, but I really don't want to have to do that because I'm trying to redeem myself. I was like, well, sorry, you made a mistake. So
yeah.
Have you guys ever disagreed on killing a character? Because I never worked with another writer, so that has to be like a big.
Oh, that was great. That was perfect.
I'm always like, I want to kill this character. He's like, no.
Oh, so you're the Reaper.
So there's a running joke between us and between like some of our fans and some of our followers of our work that Kelly really likes to be kind of cruel to her characters sometimes. And I'm always the one that's trying to save characters. There's actually a character in this series that was meant to die in like book 3, book 4, somewhere along those lines. But thanks to my insistence, the character actually survives through the entire series. So yes, we do disagree on killing our characters and being mean to our characters, but sometimes it's just got to happen.
No. You have to understand, when he says he wants to kill a character, it doesn't matter if it's a good character, bad character. I was like, yeah, go ahead, have fun. So when I want to kill a good character, if it's a good character, he will not let me.
Well,
I have to really
it's not that I won't let her. It's that we really have to sit down and discuss it because I will try to find every available option to save a character if it's a character that I like. If it's a character I don't like, I'm just like, screw it, kill him. But
I don't fight that hard for him to save his characters.
Yeah. But you kind of have to kill the characters you like. Like I had this one character in one of my books where I was actually planning out this character's future and like what the kids were going to look like, everything. And I was like, oh man, the story doesn't work unless I kill this person off. that's gonna like to have the most. That's gonna have the most emotional punch in this moment, in this story, in this part of the story arc. And it hurt to do, but yeah, he had to go.
Oh, I understand. I understand as well. I mean, there have been times when I have to actually mourn my characters because I know it's coming, and then the day comes when I write that death scene, however it is, and I'm just super sulky for like the rest of the day.
Yeah, if it upsets you, it's definitely going to upset the reader.
Exactly. And there's, without giving away too much, there's a scene in book 2 that has something very much like that. And it happens very suddenly and very traumatically and very jarring. And I'm the one who wrote that scene. I'm the one who made that decision. So when she read that scene for the first time, she was startled.
I knew it was going to happen, but how it happened was surprising.
But yeah, making the decision and saying, yeah, this is a character that needs to die. It can be kind of difficult sometimes, but the immediate aftermath of that scene was very much worth.
It's what needed to happen.
It's what needed to happen to get the resolution for part of that series. So
yes, I do argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no qualm about killing off characters. I write dark literature, so it's kind of my life mission.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kimberly.
Yes, hello. Pardon me?
How about you?
Yes, well, yeah, I'm the same. The expression goes, kill your darlings, and I'm definitely one of those authors that has no problems killing off characters, especially if the story calls for it, where you know that it will bring, the plot forward, and I have absolutely no problems, and the gorier, the better. So I definitely have a thing for high action, high octane, and if the protagonist is a woman, all the better. So yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what's happening in this book, where the protagonist is, like I said, a woman, and she's kind of discovering who she is, and she leaves a bloody trail behind her. So yeah, so I definitely like to kill my darlings.
Now, who is your favorite character?
My favorite character. Pardon me?
And are they a villain or are they a hero in your story?
I guess in this case, so in this book, because I come from a screenwriting background, so most of the time my favorite characters are the mean ones, the ones that the anti-hero, basically. So my protagonists are often not very likable. They often, people don't like them. So, but in this case, my main character, Ira, is definitely a vulnerable, she's almost loopy, she's crazy, she's a non-reliable character. She doesn't even know, what's happening to her. She's a bit crazy. So she's definitely my protagonist, is definitely my favorite character, just because I've invested so much time in understanding where she's coming from and why she's doing what she's doing, and the hardship that she has gone through. But her love interest is also one that I identify very much with, because, and it's weird because when I started writing him, he was, the love interest kind of thing. And I didn't realize up until the end that he was basically kind of me. And I was identifying way more with him than I was with Ira. And it was a surprise because, he was confused in the sense that he had lost a lot. He had lost his wife, he had lost his son, and he was trying to rebuild his life and trying to get back to, a state where he felt like he deserved to live. And it wasn't working out for him. And basically, I identified with him because he was, I don't know, he was trying, and he was that guy that was just, he wouldn't give up up until the point where he did give up. But anyway, so that's a totally other thing. But I totally identified with that character. But the one that I loved the most was my protagonist, Ira.
No,
I wonder if that made any sense at all. I apologize. I'm still rattled by just rushing up to get to this podcast. So yes.
You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I wanted to
just grab some coffee. Go ahead.
I wanted to add one more thing to the macabre conversation about killing off characters. Has anyone else ever had to resurrect a character? Like I had a book where I had an emotional scene at the end of the book, but I killed off one of the character's siblings from that scene. So in order for that scene to work, I couldn't kill off their sibling in the earlier chapter, so I had to kill somebody else. Have you ever run into a situation similar to that where you wrote the character's death already, you have to go back and change it?
I have definitely had characters that I have killed off on Tuesday and brought back to life on Thursday. And by Friday, I decided to dispose of both of them. Yeah, definitely. If I don't feel the book is not going and taking the turns that I want, then I will go back to scratch and I will start over. And then I will kind of go back to the other story that I have written and I will incorporate both of them, because I know there's somewhere in that mix something I find along the way that, oh, this was supposed to happen. That's why I'm caught up over here. But Kelly?
Well, we've had characters, that we planned to kill and bring back. So we didn't actually, I can't think of a character that I killed and then like, oh, wait, that didn't work, because we plotted out very thoroughly.
Yeah.
And the stories tend to go the way we needed to go. Mm-hmm. So, but I have had characters come back from the dead because of some situations that surrounded their death.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we've had a character that's just...
Yeah, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
What happens more is like, oh, wait, you died?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, now what? That's what happens more. And, but yeah, so that's what works with us.
Yeah.
And who was your favorite character, each of you?
With this series?
Yeah. With this series that we've written together, I think our two main characters respectively are kind of our primary favorite characters. There's a couple of secondary characters that we really love, but really we just dove into the two main characters for this series.
He has a character named Adric that he wrote, who is the main male character. I have a character named Insula that I wrote, who's the main female character. Mm-hmm. But so both of us really, because get sucked into them, mm-hmm. We really like those. But there was a side character I really enjoyed. His name is Voidus, and he is just a troublemaker and just hilarious. And every time you have Adric in a room with Voidus and just the way they interact with each other, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So he's definitely one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Do you find in writing that you will write of each other, or do those characters reflect either one of you? Have you noticed?
I really hope some of them don't.
Yeah.
I really do think that, I think all characters are fragments of us, like they show certain strengths of us or weaknesses. And so they're kind of reflections of us in like different angles that we may not see mm-hmm. ourselves, or they may parts of us that we wish we were. And so that's how I see. Or part of
us that we might be afraid of being. Yeah. That sort of thing.
So that's what I think the characters tend to be for us.
Yeah.
I love that. That is awesome. Great observation. Katie, how about you, love?
Well, I'm always a sucker for the warrior type archetype, for like a warrior woman. And because of that, I have written that type of woman in all my series. Though my adult series, The Guardian Speaker, which is based off Nordic mythology, I challenged myself to write a main character, which was totally the opposite, a very meek character, very mild, not sure of herself. In that series, of course, I still ended up fitting in the shield maiden warrior as her older sister. And I really like her in particular because while I was incorporating a lot of the philosophy and cultural behaviors that the Nordic people during the Viking era believed in, I like to utilize her because she is someone who's a female warrior, which is already, they're not many, And then even still, even though she's gained this prowess and everything, she's still in a patriarch style culture. And so if she was firstborn, but she's a woman. So if she was born male, she would have been the head of the household. She would have gotten all the esteem, you know, she could run her own ships. But because she's a woman, no matter what she does, her brother would automatically get the credit because he's the male, he's the head of the household. So I like her because she's a very challenging character, right? And even though she's very powerful, she has a lot of demons she's dealing with just existing in her type of society.
Now, are you intending, well, I'm not going to ask you if you're going to kill her off, but I will ask, is there anyone around her that she might have influence over? You said you have a meek character.
Yeah, the main character is actually the very meek one in that one. So I was kind of using the shield mating as a side character. So I could still channel that love of a woman warrior, but I'm actually focusing on a character who was more or less shunned by her society because she was born with ability to talk to what is known as Scourges, which is everyone's animal guardian spirits. And she's the only one who can see them and communicate with them. So looking like she talks to herself, everybody thinks she's crazy. And that's kind of psychologically marred her for life per se. But utilizing her character, you get to see all the 9 worlds and everything, but also being based off Nordic mythology, it is very dark, it is very bloody. It will start slow but build up, and yes, there are going to be a lot of characters that do die in that one because I have to keep true to the mythos that I'm pulling from.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. Kimberly.
Yes.
How is your dialogue? Do you enjoy writing it?
Yes, that's actually my strong point. Well, again, because I come from a screenwriting background, so dialogue is a very important part. I guess it did hinder a little bit in the sense when I was transferring the knowledge from screenwriting into novel writing, is that I guess one of the criticisms that I did receive was characterization. And so basically, I'm not one that tends to go very deep into explaining why a character is doing what they're doing and diving deep into the psyche of, which is odd because I have, like, that's what I studied, psychology. And yet I don't like explaining, you know, why the character is having a meltdown. You know, I prefer obviously showing it and not having, but that was a criticism that people, you know, they were like, why is that person doing that? And for me, it was kind of obvious because I was just like, well, look what's happening around them, you know, look, I mean, you know, she's hallucinating shit all around her and she has people left, right, and center that are trying to kill her. And just to put it a little bit in context, basically the story is about a young woman who is in a post-apocalyptic winter, desolate, you know, everything is covered in snow and etc. And she's captive by this really bad, evil man. And she doesn't know why, but she does know that she's pregnant and she needs to escape him. So she escapes, but her mind is totally unraveling. Shit is happening to her. She's hallucinating like things that, you know, she doesn't understand, like these hallucinations. Anyways, she falls into like this cult underground. And that's where she kind of discovers that she is the key to freeing these people. But the price to pay is basically her sanity, her soul. And she needs to figure out, like, does she want to do this? But yeah, so basically so that's it. So to answer your question, yes, the characterization was difficult for me to write because of my background, but the dialogue itself, yeah, I have no problem with dialogue. Kind of, yeah.
Can I jump on that for 1 second?
Yeah.
You mentioning that, again, you have the little screenwriter's background, and then also somewhere back there you studied psychology, which I think is interesting. One of my degrees I had was psychology with the emphasis on animal behavior. And so that's why one of the reasons why I love incorporating animal type characters or entities in my series, because I have a little background. So I guess my question for everybody else is, did you study something that you figured out how to incorporate into your writing? Because I found out a lot of authors didn't get a degree in fiction, fiction writing. It was most time there's a roundabout way where how they approach this career.
Well, I love human foibles. I mean, I love anything that has to do with, I'm deep into crimes and why does the murderer, go into that. And then I freak out because I'm like, oh my God, murder could be living next door. But I love psychology where you try to figure out what makes a person tick. And so that's what kind of drove me to writing these stories where the main character totally unravels. I have a lot of my stories, the main character often unravels, and I don't know, I'm fascinated by that. So yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the animals. I have a thing for animals where the main character kind of identifies with the animal's strengths. So in this book, Ira, she kind of hallucinates these wolves, and each wolf has like a characteristic that she wants and has to embody to be able to free herself. So that's basically the gist of the story. But I a little bit like you, I enjoy animals because they're cool and and really disturbed psyche.
Yeah,
I really like your idea about the unraveling of the characters, because that's always very interesting to dive into. So I really like that.
Yeah, I as well have a psych background, and most of my characters, I definitely dive into their psyche. And whether they turn out nice or they're definitely unraveling in different ways. I know that. And definitely I watch a lot of murder shows, put it that way. And my neighbors, I'm someone that my neighbors, they know me by now. So if someone new is in the neighborhood, like we just had some neighbors that just moved in, the looks I get, and I'm just like, hi. I love it. Now, Thomas, how about you, love?
What's the question?
Katie had asked you, did you have anything that you studied in like college or high school or whatnot?
Nah, just the streets, the mean, hard streets of New Jersey.
Hey, that'll work.
Hey, I like it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
we know, and the stronger that you know things, the more understandable and ingratiating people who don't know, love it. So I love that.
Yeah.
And
for me, I was an EMT for 5 years in a big city. I worked in a level 1 trauma ER, which is, they always have a room on standby for someone who's like actively dying. So the medical experience kind of helps add a layer of realism to some of the action and some of the trauma in our stories, but also some of my own personal struggles with the mental and emotional fallout from the job can make their way into the characters and how they respond to some of the things that they've gone through in the course of our stories. Wow. So that also kind of helps add the realism to it. So my medical background really is what we bring to it.
You bring to it.
Yeah, what I bring to it.
Yeah. I'm just an English and a creative writing major, you guys. But
that's neat. I like it.
I did do Taekwondo, became a black belt in Taekwondo. I did fencing, I did archery too, so I could do my battle scenes. So I did do all that.
Actually, got a black belt in Aikido.
Yeah.
And and a lot of the battles, a lot of the fight scenes I write are based on Aikido techniques or other martial arts techniques that I picked up over the years.
Yeah, fight scenes are easy and battle scenes are easy for me to write because I have that experience. So
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to write.
I was a competitive archer as well, so there you go. That's kind of fun.
We have a bunch of badasses on our show tonight. That is great. In writing dialogue, how do you choose when it comes to, say, foreshadowing another character? Do you bring in another character, or do you have that character go into like a dreamlike state? How do you use that psychological background? Katie?
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how, like, okay, can you...
What do you mean by foreshadow a character?
Well, I have a character that, say someone who has nightmares, and I've been asked this before by a reader. When you are writing dialogue, it's okay and easy for some to be able to write the scenarios and the symptoms and things like that. However, how do you dive into like mental health, where you have that psychological background of like nightmares? When you're writing the dialogue, how would you approach that? Is it something that you would run and research that particular thing, or is it something that you kind of dive into your past understanding of what you've already learned?
I can kind of go ahead and start this. Like for me, for personal experience, without going into too much detail, I don't sleep very well most nights. I tend to wake up in the middle of the night a lot. I tend not to get a lot of rest. So that kind of helps me to understand what it's like for a character waking up from something like that. So like,
the character went through a major battle.
Yeah, if the character went through a major battle or went through something that's significantly traumatic to them, my experiences with dissociating and anxiety and not sleeping very well. So sometimes we'll show the character just kind of spacing out, or if it's like the start of a chapter or the start of a scene with this character coming in, have them waking up from a nightmare and taking a moment to process what it was that was going through their head.
Very good. I love that. I love that. Thank you.
I actually have a character in my story, in my books, is one of the main characters, Princess Adiola. And during various parts of the book, when she's under a lot of stress or a lot of pressure, the world's coming down on her, she'll enter a state of the world around her slowing down to like a crawl. And then people who've passed on, people who have died already, they come and give her like counsel and guidance. And her people, the Erez, they believe in this god called Mars. So she believes that it's Mars talking to her. But at the same time, her mother saw the same thing, and she was considered mentally ill, but undiagnosed mental illness. Like they didn't know what was wrong with her. So as part of the story, you don't know whether she's actually communicating with this god that she believes in, or if she has some mental illness of her own, and she's pretty much talking like she's pretty much what's the word, helping herself cope with a bad situation through these moments of dissociation.
Nice. Okay.
Well, and I guess in my case, I mean, it all depends on what kind of trauma or what the background situation for the character is, because there is times when I'll go and do research. Again, my psychology was a little more focused on animal behavior and reactions that way. But having experience with having a grandfather with Alzheimer's, I wrote a character in one of my first series that had that, and the reactions and how people react to someone who has that disability, and the commentary and the dialogue, talking to someone who, in a few minutes forgets who you are again, and again, that this uncomfortable kind of feeling that kind of grows in the pit of some people's stomachs when they're just trying to be there for this other person, yet are still very uncomfortable with seeing someone degrade that way.
Gotcha. Kimberly?
I guess I'd have to say that, so in respects to, let's say, era unraveling mentally, again, so when it comes to like the dialogue, I'll rarely, I don't know how to say this, I'll rarely be explicit in the dialogue about it. Like, yeah, so I'm not explicit. If I am explicit, it's because, let's say, two other characters are kind of like talking about that character, like, oh my God, she's bananas, you know, so kind of thing. But I'm rarely explicit in the sense that when the reader's reading it, they'll go into like what she's going through, and she doesn't understand what's happening, so when the reader's reading about Era unraveling, they're unraveling with her, and they don't understand why she's unraveling. Mm-hmm. And we'll figure it out as we go along through the story. Does that answer kind of like your question? Is that what you were?
No, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
All of you have beautiful points. And, you know, throughout the years, like I said, I write a lot of poetry and short stories, and I have novels that I have. And the short story side of it, because they are shorts, for some reason, a lot of times I have a lot of questions that I'm asked regarding certain characterizations. Now, how do you feel about in publishing? Is there the trigger warnings? How does everyone feel about the trigger warnings?
Well,
yay or nay?
I think they're a great idea. We don't necessarily have them in our books. I know, like me personally, I benefit from stuff like that sometimes. It's not something that we have in our books because we didn't really think about it a whole lot at the time, but I don't personally see an issue with it. Okay.
Kimberly, how about you, dear?
I didn't put a trigger warning in my book, and perhaps I should have, because a few people on Goodreads, like when they left the review, are like, trigger warnings, you know, very violent, very, you know, blah, blah, blah and stuff. So I'm not against it. I didn't realize that I had a higher tolerance, because I mean, there are certain scenes that are, you know, rather delicate in the sense that you don't see anything, but it's kind of implied. And I guess that was enough to trigger some people, and I felt bad for it. So next time I'll know to add that to the book. But yeah, initially I didn't think of it, but just because, you know, the kind of stuff that I watch, I don't know, I even if I was reading a book, even if there was that, I mean, you know, Game of Thrones, basically, you know, there was no trigger warning, but at some point, you know, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is happening. So yeah, I didn't feel the need to do it, but perhaps I should have.
Gotcha. Thomas?
I never even thought of trigger warnings. I mean, they're a good idea for the most part. I think they can spoil the story at some points. Like if your story's hinging on a shocking scene, if there's a trigger warning, it could tip off the readers or the viewers about what's coming. So in that case, I guess spoiler trigger warning. So you gotta be triggered by something. I guess don't tell them what. Again, the point of a trigger warning is to tell them what's going to trigger them. So, you know, it's a positive and a negative. It's more of a positive than a negative, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Katie, how about you, dear?
Well, I mean, I've not used them personally, but I'm not opposed for people to use them. For me, since I write in different age brackets, one of the reasons why I split up those age brackets is because of the level of violence in some of the books. So my young adult, staying in young adult, I keep it mild, and then new adults a little bit more. And obviously my adults, I don't care how violent potentially I could get, because it's an adult book. I would think the readers who are reading an adult genre should know that, you know, that's a possibility. But I could see issues without putting it trigger warning out there. I just haven't personally done it, and I don't personally think I will do it currently, just because, again, I advertise dark fantasy adult. hopefully people understand dark means the content's a little dark.
Yeah, dark means a lot can happen.
I
Yes.
definitely concur. I know that the trigger warnings have been around for a while now, and I've never been asked to put trigger warnings on any of my content, but in the same token, I feel as though if it's an adult book and a mature book, I am one of those people on the fence that I don't see the purpose for it. Do you know what I mean? If you have
it labeled a certain way, that labeling itself is the trigger warning.
Yeah.
If you advertise dark fantasy, gothic horror, something like that, then that should be an indication to people that there's going to be some difficult things in the book.
Now, I can see if you write young adult, or because that's that age bracket, which you could go dark or you could keep it light. That one you might, if you did try to have some, especially like a very violent scene in those, I could see maybe that being more of a necessity than an adult series, just because you are dealing with younger people who are usually the readers of the young adult series.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it's me or if it's just an assumption as far as with trigger warnings. If you're reading dark anything, any kind of dark literature, I would assume there is an assumption that, there's going to be death and destruction and different things and elements that, if it is going to bother you, you know what I mean? Because everyone has different sensibilities, and what's okay for one person, someone else might not like for a completely different reason. So I'm always interested in what people, what their opinion is about trigger warnings.
Yeah, but I find that people aren't really triggered by extreme violence, because the more extreme violence gets, the more cartoonish it gets, and it kind of softens itself. The more, like, if you play a Mortal Kombat game, it's so ridiculous that you're not triggered by the violence because it's so cartoonish.
Preach.
But with different forms of abuse that people may have gone through in their actual lives are triggering. So I think it could be a good idea, if you're gonna explore those different forms of abuse, then let people know who may have a negative reaction to it.
Now, if it were mental health, or if it's something where it's very explicit, then yes, I'm on the boat with that.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like a lot of things are it's gotten down to a point that, in my opinion, that, well, we don't like cussing. We don't like curse words. We don't like this. We don't like that. When, you know what I mean? And I feel as though, when we start, that censorship becomes kind of a slippery slope.
Yeah, I understand that.
And that part of me is like, I don't think this is a good idea for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to ask all of you if you can go through and tell all of our readers, where can we find you? And if you have a Twitter account or a Facebook account or your own website, please let us know. Kimberly, how can the readers reach you?
So they can reach me on Facebook. I have an author page, Kimberly T. Hennessy. That's where I'm most active. Although I did try to do all of the social media, I failed miserably because it's just, I don't know. It's a young woman's game, I guess. Pardon me?
I said it's definitely overwhelming.
Oh my God, yeah. It's impossible to keep. It's a full-time job. And so I was doing a lot of Instagram, and now I haven't touched it because I was utterly depressed doing it. So yeah, so it's basically Facebook. I might go back onto Instagram again under Kimberly T. Hennessy, author. And yeah, I have a profile on Amazon. I also have, that's where you can find my book on Amazon. And I also have a website, KimberlyTHennessy.com. And I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else, but I think that's pretty much where you can come and chat. And when I'm more, when I'm not rushing and going everywhere, I'm really good to chat. And, I love talking with people. And I also have like a newsletter where people, we correspond through the newsletter, and it's a lot of fun. And I try to find, I watch way too much Netflix, way too much. And so, but I do like these recommendations of, what I've caught, what I've watched recently, which is usually around fantasy and sci-fi. So yeah, so that's where you can reach out to me. And I love to hear from anyone that wants to talk sci-fi and fantasy. I love this stuff. So
awesome. Kelly, Matt?
Matthew and
yeah, her social media is a lot more active than mine. I've kind of had to take a step back from social media for like my own mental health and all of that other stuff. But I can let her tell you about her stuff because she's very, very active on social media.
I have a Facebook group called The Muses Realm, and that is where I'm most active. That's where I post about my books. I post about my pets. I have 6 cats and a Doberman, and I post about my art that I do and so forth. But I also post beautiful pictures and anything inspiring and encouraging to people, because it can be very depressing out there. So that's what my Facebook group is focused on. And that's where I am most active. I do have a website. It's called Kellanetta. That's KELLANETTA.com. And that has all my books. And since, we co-wrote, that has our books as well. So, I mean, I have Instagram, but I'm not very active on there. Same thing with Twitter. I am procrastinating about getting TikTok because I want to do it. I have ideas, but I'm just like, what do I really? So one of these days I'll be doing TikTok, hopefully in the near future, but haven't done it yet. But Facebook is where I am most active, and where you can find me and engage with me. So.
Okay. Has anybody actually tried TikTok?
Not yet. It's on my to try list.
It's almost that fear, isn't it? It's kind of like it's. Well, initially I had heard that it's an extremely young crowd, and I'm like, okay, why write dark literature? Where does that fit in? Where would I fit in that kind of aspect? And then I found out there is a maturity level where they have different areas where you can put over 18 content and things like that. So I was just kind of intrigued. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but
I have a TikTok. I have a TikTok, and mostly I just use it on the nights where I can't sleep, and I'll just sit there and scroll and zone out until 3 o'clock in the morning. I see a lot of cosplay. I see a lot of dark fantasy and sci-fi kind of stuff on there. There's a bunch of SCP skits on there. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the SCP lore or anything like that, but there's definitely more mature content on there. I mean, occasionally, you get the silly TikTok dance videos and younger stuff for younger crowds and stuff like that. But the more you interact with certain things, the more that you see on your screen. So they have writers talk, they have LGBT talk, they have cosplay talk, they have book talk, Warhammer, Lord of the Rings. There's all different kinds of stuff on there. So it is, I mean, in my opinion, it's a good potential platform. I just use it for the videos to distract me at night.
One of my friends is an author, and she's on TikTok, and she's doing really, really well. So she's giving me some tips, and there's a Facebook group called Authors for or of TikTok, something like that. And that's where all these authors are like, okay, so how many videos do I have to post today? And so forth. And you can ask questions. So I'm in that group, and I have not even introduced myself yet, because I'm like, I'm still you know, like, am I ready to do this? Because they say you have to, if you create an account, you want to start posting videos right away, because TikTok will start, you know, they're gonna start pushing you because you're a brand new account. So I'm like, okay, so I can't even get an account before I start, you know, experimenting. I have to get the confidence first to do that. Yeah. So I have an account, but I'm going to create a new one for this and see what happens.
I like it. Interesting. See, this is why I do this show. I learn as much as the readers and other writers. I love it. Yeah. Now, Thomas, how can we reach you, love?
Okay. All my social medias are on my website, versatile-layer.com, along with links to all my books and a blog section that I've been neglecting for about a year now. I have to get back to. And so links to all my stuff is on the website, versatile-layer.com.
Okay. Katie?
Well, I try to link most, if not all, of my stuff also through my website, and that is Catherine Weibel Books, and I'll spell that out since my name's a little odd. It's Catherine, which is spelled Katharine, Weibel, which is W, I as in ink, B as in boy, ELL, books.com, all one word. And on there, I do have kind of like you said, Thomas, like a blog that I haven't really kept up with, but outside of that, my challenge this year was to do better on my social media. So I have a Twitter, I have Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube channel that I've just started, obviously Facebook accounts for various aspects of my writing. And for most of those, you can find me at Catherine E. Weibel or Catherine Weibel on those platforms. But I'd love to talk with all you guys.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love it, guys. Thank you so much. I've had such a great time.
Thank you. This is probably my favorite interview that I've done so far. So.
It was a lot of fun.
Then you guys are welcome anytime. Just hit me up and let me know, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And everyone, we bid you adieu tonight. This has been Night Vision. Bye, all.